This video is brought to you by Knives Ship Free, the best place to buy knives, period. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 9 January 2023. Before I say anything further, the title of this video is total clickbait, but you're going to appreciate it. I promise you will. Having said that, this video will carry a paid promotion. It will be part of my US-made knife review series, sponsored by Knives Ship Free, the best place to buy knives, period. You will find in the description of this video a link to the Benchmade 940 page. You can't buy the knife you're going to see in this video. Number one, because it's about 13 or 14 years old and beat to snot. And secondly, it's been discontinued. But I will get you to the product page of this family of Benchmade knives at kniveshipfree.com. If you use this affiliate link in the description, my sponsor, Knives Ship Free, will kick a little cash my way. It will help the channel. It will help me provide more and better content. And it will put a little jingle in the pocket of Jay and the boys at Knives Ship Free, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's get into tonight's video. You see before you on the screen two variants of the Benchmade 940 Osborne. We're going to talk about a third one you don't see. But before we get into that, let's do a pocket dump and a wrist check, shall we? First up, I have my same backwards pairing as I did Saturday. Clip to the top of the left front pocket from Spyderco. My well-used post office knife, the Chaparral FRN. And then in the belt pouch from Great Eastern Cutlery, it is the number 23 Swell Center Trapper single drop point liner lock in mesquite wood. And on the wrist today, from Damasco, it's the DS30 on the hardened bracelet. Okay, so you're looking at two Benchmade 940 variants. And one of them is this one. This is my standard aluminum handle, TheApostleP etched, reverse Tonto blade. And this is kind of my safe queen, to be honest. It is. I don't carry it a lot. I kind of like to keep it nice. So for a user, you guys know this, if you've been paying attention to this channel, this is the 940 BK-2004 with the Cerakoted blade of CPM M4 and the translucent natural or jade G10, sporting the Parkerized split arrow clip. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. And in the title, you're going to see something about, you know, some alarming statement about how Benchmade durability is horrible and they don't hold up. So here's the subject of tonight's video. Are you looking at that? So this knife came in a box of consignments from one of my favorite and your favorite consigners, Sid from Florida. And he sent me a bunch of copy and a bunch of pictures of this latest box of consignments. And this knife was sort of mentioned at the end as an afterthought. He happened to call this morning as I was going through his box. So I hurried up and picked up the call, and we talked about some of them, and then we got to a stopping point. I said, hey, by the way, what are we doing with this 943? So he started to tell me the story. He bought this knife recently on eBay. And it was one of those eBay sellers who buys TSA seizure lots. And he put this one on at an auction with an opening bid of like $9. Well, Sid looked at it. And he looked at it some more. And he read the description. The description disclosed everything. You know, it had blade play. It was super gummy. It had a horribly off-center blade, and it still does. It had a pretty good chip out of the plain edge portion, about right there. just issues. And look at the handle, guys. So, you know, the more Sid looked at it, the more he thought, it's kind of got some character. It must have a story. So he knew he wasn't going to be able to monitor the auction. So he, and evidently a couple other people, put in very high proxy bids. And when the smoke cleared at the end of the auction, Sid owned this knife for $200. So just for reference, when these were discontinued and they sold out at retailers, you could buy the stonewashed plain edge version for 187 bucks map. Sid paid $200 for this. Okay, so we'll get back to that later. I just want you to look at it. This knife is not a super early production knife. The reason I know that is that if you can see the glint, it has phosphor bronze washers, not nylotron washers. So that puts it, you know, like what, after 2005, but it does have a 154 cm blade. And what obviously is BK1 coating that wears off. So let's say circa 2008, right? Now I just want to look at this because first of all, you can see that the serrations are a little shallow. So they've been used, but they've been lovingly touched up. They're uniformly worn. All I did when I sharpened this was just hit them with ceramic rods and then stropped them. So they're quite bitey. But look at the handle, man. Lots of wear. Whoever owned this must have been a tradesman. It must have got dropped a lot. It must have got banged around a lot. Obviously, the pommel end of the knife was used as an impact device a lot. It's got honest wear in spades. When I had the knife apart, and I'll show you a picture of the disassembled knife and just kind of take a look as I'm describing what was going on inside. It was full of dried lubricant, rust, lint, general crud. The area of the blade tang where the blade rides on the washers was deeply grooved, so is deeply grooved. So obviously lots of contamination had gotten between the washers and the blade. I'm looking at the inside of this thing going, this thing's been opened and closed thousands of times, not in a clean environment. There was a big chunk right out of the belly of the blade. So Sid told me the story, and I'm on the phone with him, and he's telling me about this auction. I'm going, that's hilarious. It's hilarious. But I could see it happening. And I told him, I don't know, it's been, what, about a year ago? I sold a green plain 940 like this one that looked about like this, and it did 125 bucks in my sale. So the 943 is discontinued. I said, I can see somebody paying 200 for it in an auction, and he did. So he knows it's not worth 200. He knows he paid too much for it. But I just want you to look beyond the wear. The blade's off center because it's bent. It's been pried with, and it's bent. I know that because I had it apart and I looked at the internals, and I just want you to notice there is zero blade play in any direction, and the blade's a free dropper. So, you know, there's nothing wonky going on inside of it. The blade's just bent. But the mechanicals are so good, even with all that wear. I mean, look at that. Oh. And even with prying, I did not have to retip this knife, guys. I just give it a good routine sharpening. It was beat to snot. Yet it still performs flawlessly. The one thing, and it's kind of a detractor, the owner who sold it to Sid, he did snap the clip or spring it real bad, and he had Benchmade send him a Parkerized clipper. Maybe Sid had him send, I don't know. Anyway, it's got a brand new Parkerized Emerson style clip. So that's sort of the style clip that it would have had new. But there's a point to this video, and it's this. I say routinely that the best pocket knife as a tool ever made is the Benchmade 940. You know, it's slim in pocket. It's strong. The lock is strong. It's lightweight. For slimness and lightness of weight, you get the most cutting edge of any pocket knife I know of. And it takes a licking, my friends. You can't break them. They don't die. And you know, they've been making this knife forever now, well over 20 years. One other thing of note, I'm going to throw another picture up, and I want you to take a look at the appearance of the Omega springs in that disassembled picture. They're caked with gunk and old oil, and there's rust on them. They're not broken, however. And I can't imagine Omega springs that have had a harder life than the springs in this knife. By the wear in the blade tang from the washers, how many cycles have these springs been through? And you know what? I clean them up, I put them back in, everything works perfectly. Everything works perfectly. And here's the other thing, guys. If it ever should fail to work perfectly, you send it in. Benchmade will make it work perfectly. They're not going anywhere. They've been here for, what, almost 40 years, starting as Pacific Cutlery. And they will be happy to fix up your 940 or your 943. If you make it look like this and something breaks. They love that stuff. Yeah. What's cool about this? It wasn't tied on a piece of paracord and dragged behind a truck down a gravel road. It wasn't thrown in the dryer with nuts and bolts. This knife has lived for what, 15 years or so, and it has been used like a pocket knife and beyond. And with a little routine maintenance, it's back to perfection. What did this knife cost back in 2008? Maybe what, 120 bucks? Think somebody got his money's worth? Now Sid, on the other hand, he may not. So while I had him on the phone today, I'm talking to him about this knife. I got him on speaker and I'm taking it apart. I'm sending him pictures. I'm saying, man, you know, I'm going to make a video about this knife. And then we're going to sell it at the end of the month. And I bet you somebody's going to buy it, and I bet they're going to appreciate it. And I told him a number. Now, you know, keep in mind, we had a knife in this condition that needed to be sharpened about a year ago, a green 940, and it did 125. This one has my fresh edge on it. And it's beautiful. So I'm thinking a number a little bigger than 125. And Sid goes, yeah, you know, let's do that. And you know, I'll pay you a little bit to sharpen it, and you know, maybe we'll just split the money. And we were talking a little more, and then he goes, you know what? Maybe I won't do that. Maybe after you make the video and I see it, and heck, I might just buy it back from you. I'm like, what did you say? He says, yeah, maybe I'll just buy it back. I said, Sid, you already own it. Are you really talking about spending another $100 or more just to get the knife back that you paid too much for? He's like, I might. Now, only Benchmade fans who appreciate the 940 series are going to understand how someone could be that insane. Most of you watching this video are going to go, what a couple of morons. But I get it. I get you, brother. I get you. Oh. What's the point to all this? The point to all this is, I don't care if it's on phosphor bronze. I don't care if it has outdated steel. I don't care if they've been making it for 22, 3 years. I don't care. Say what you want. But your little Nancy boy Chinese ball bearing flipper ain't going to be around when it's lived the life this knife has. In fact, let's face it, there probably aren't any of those foo-foo Chinese knives that are ever going to live the life this knife has. This, my friends, is a tool, and it is an extremely well-designed, well-engineered, and well-constructed tool. Long live the 940 and the 3 and the BK-2004. Oh, I love them. That's all for this one. Please do use my affiliate link if this video tickled your 940 fancy. That link, of course, to the 940 family page at kniveshipfree.com. Knives Shipped Free, the best place to buy knives, period. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word in all 3 of these Benchmades are sharp.